The sky was broken. Pieces of burning metal rained down from the clouds as Eli Carter's small scout ship tore through the violet atmosphere of an unknown world. Sparks lit up the control room. Red alarm screamed. His voice trembled as he shouted, "Come on, hold together, please." But the ship didn't listen. With a final crack, the engine exploded behind him. The shockwave threw Eli forward. His head hit the control panel and everything went dark. When he opened his eyes again, the world around him was silent. Too silent. His helmet visor flickered. Oxygen 38%. The crash had destroyed his ship completely. The forest outside glowed faintly under a strange green mist that rolled across the ground like liquid light. Eli pulled himself out of the wreckage. His legs shook, but he forced himself to stand. "Okay," he whispered, trying to calm his breathing. "Survey, survive, signal, rescue." That was the rule. But something about this planet didn't feel normal. The air was too still. The silence was too deep. He picked up his scanner and began walking through the glowing forest. The trees were tall and twisted, their bark shimmering like wet glass. Strange flowers opened as he passed, their petals releasing tiny blue sparks that floated upward. Eli's heart was heavy. He was light years away from home, alone and running out of oxygen. The mist around him thickened until he could barely see a few meters ahead. Then, he saw movement. At first he thought it was just the mist shifting. But no, there was a shape. A tall figure standing between the glowing trees. Slim, elegant, motionless, Eli froze. His hand went to his sidearm, but something inside him whispered, "Don't." The figure stepped forward slowly. The mist swirled around her, and for the first time he saw her clearly. She wasn't human. Her skin shimmered faintly, like moonlight touching water. Her hair floated softly, silver blue, moving as if underwater. Her eyes, they weren't eyes at all, but two luminous spheres of light, calm and deep. She wore something like armor, but it looked alive, flowing with her breathing. Eli's chest tightened. He couldn't speak, couldn't move. He had seen hundreds of alien species during his service, but never one like her. She tilted her head, studying him. Then she took a single step closer. The air around them vibrated, soft and warm like a heartbeat made of sound. Eli raised a shaking hand. I'm not here to harm you," he said carefully. His voice echoed strangely in the mist. No answer. She just stood there, watching him, her glowing eyes fixed on his face, like she was searching for something inside him. For a moment, time itself stopped. Then she moved her hand slightly and the mist rippled outward. It felt like a wave of calm touched his mind. A whisper brushed his thoughts. Not words, but a feeling, curiosity, and sadness. Eli's throat went dry. "You can hear me?" The light in her eyes flickered. A soft pulse of energy glowed across her chest, right where her heart should be. She looked at him with an expression he couldn't understand, somewhere between confusion and recognition. And then she smiled. Just a faint, almost invisible smile. It hit Eli like lightning. Something deep in his chest stirred, a strange warmth that pushed aside the fear and exhaustion. He didn't know why, but he couldn't look away. Every second felt heavier, deeper, like the universe itself was holding its breath. A sudden gust of wind broke the silence. The mist twisted violently. When Eli opened his eyes again, she was gone. He looked around, turning in every direction. "Wait!" he called out, his voice echoing between the trees. But the only reply was the whisper of wind. He stood there for a long time, breathing hard, his heart racing like a drum. Had he imagined her? Was she real? He dropped to his knees and pressed his hand against the glowing soil. It was warm, and there, faintly in front of him, was a single footprint. Small, elegant, glowing, faintly blue. Eli stared at it in disbelief. "You're real," he whispered. "You were right here." He didn't realize that his lips had curved into a small smile. For the first time since the crash, he didn't feel afraid. Instead, a strange peace settled over him, and something even stronger, a feeling he couldn't explain. He touched his chest, right above his heart, and felt it pounding fast. Too fast. "What's happening to me?" he murmured. Far away, hidden beyond the mist, the alien woman stood silently on a cliff edge. The green fog moved around her like a living ocean. Her hand rested on her chest over her glowing heart. Her eyes closed for a moment, and she whispered in her own tongue, a sound like distant music. She could feel it too. The human's emotions, raw, warm, unguarded, had reached her across the void between species. It had been centuries since anyone had looked at her like that, since anyone had felt love in her presence. She turned her gaze back toward the forest where the human's broken ship still smoked in the distance. "This is not possible," she whispered, and yet I felt it. The wind carried her voice away. The mist swallowed her again, and deep in the forest Eli Carter lay beside the dying campfire, eyes open, staring into the strange sky, thinking of silver eyes that glowed in the mist. He didn't know her name. He didn't know her kind, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The moment he saw her, he had fallen in love. Eli woke to the soft hum of wind whispering through glowing leaves. The violet dawn spread across the sky like liquid fire, painting the mist in silver and green. His ship still smoked behind him, broken and useless. His helmet display blinked. Oxygen 21%, he sighed. Great, another beautiful day to die alone. But even as he said that, his thoughts went back to her, the glowing woman he had seen in the mist. He sat up, his pulse quickening. It wasn't a dream. He remembered every detail, her silver blue hair, the light in her eyes, that silent moment where their souls had seemed to connect. He could almost feel her still watching him. He stood and looked around the forest. The mist shifted softly between the trees, glowing faintly. No sound, no footprints. But deep down, Eli knew she was still near. He switched on his handheld scanner, hoping to find any life form. The screen flickered, then showed strange energy readings all around. "So you're hiding from me," he whispered with a small smile. "Let's see if we can talk another way." Eli opened a small metal case from his survival pack. Inside were signal beacons, small blinking devices used for short-range communication. He set one on a rock and programmed it to blink once every 3 seconds. "One pulse means peace," he said aloud. "Let's see if you understand that, mystery lady." As the beacon blinked softly in the fog, Eli waited. Minutes passed, then hours. The violet sky turned golden, then dim again as night approached. Nothing. He built a small fire and leaned against a broken wing panel. The alien night was silent except for the slow rhythm of the beacon's blinking light. He was just about to fall asleep when something caught his eye. The light blinked once, then twice. Eli sat up fast. "What?" He stared, not believing it. The pattern had changed. Once for peace, twice for answer. His heart jumped. "She's out there," he whispered. "She heard me." He stood up and changed the signal again. One pulse, pause, 2 quick blinks. A simple message, hello again. He waited. The answer came. 2 pulses, pause, then 1. He smiled. "You clever thing. You said I see you." For hours that night, the human and the unseen alien spoke through light. No words, no sound, just rhythm, silence, and connection. By the 3rd night, Eli started hearing soft sounds on the wind. Like a song, faint, strange, and beautiful. It came from the forest, not from his equipment. He followed it step by step until he reached a small pool glowing like liquid glass. The melody grew stronger. It wasn't random. It was like someone was calling to him. He looked around. "Is that you?" he asked softly. The song stopped. The water rippled. Then something appeared, not a shape, not a reflection, but a shimmer like light bending. A gentle whisper entered his mind. "You hear me now." Eli gasped. He looked around but saw no one. "Yes," he said quickly. "Yes, I hear you." "Who are you?" Silence. Then another whisper, "You should not be here." "I didn't mean to come," he said. "I crashed. My ship's dead. I can't even breathe your air properly." "Then why stay?" the voice asked. It wasn't angry, it sounded curious. Eli hesitated. "Because I think I saw you." The air shimmered again. Slowly, the outline of the alien woman appeared above the glowing pool. She looked as radiant as before. Silver hair floating, eyes like 2 small moons. "You saw me," she repeated softly in his mind. "And yet you live." Eli tilted his head. "Why wouldn't I? Humans who come here do not last long. The mist eats their minds." Eli chuckled lightly. "Maybe it's not just the mist that's dangerous. Maybe it's you." Her glowing eyes blinked once and something like a laugh echoed inside his head. "You are strange," she said. He smiled. You have no idea. They met again the next night and the one after that. Every time she appeared, she seemed a little closer, less like a ghost, more like something real. She told him her name, Avelis, guardian of the mist, protector of the valley. Her people lived far away, hidden from outsiders. She asked about Earth. He told her about blue oceans, white clouds, children laughing in sunlight. Her glowing eyes softened. Your world sounds alive, she said. Ours is fading. Then maybe, he said, you need a little Earth here. Her voice was quiet. Perhaps. But your heart is too loud, human. It reaches me even when I try to forget. Eli laughed softly. Then stop trying. The moment hung between them, tender, fragile, filled with something neither could name. Before she disappeared again into the mist, she turned to look back at him. Her voice echoed faintly. Your light speaks. Keep it burning. Eli stood alone by the pool, the green mist curling around his feet. He stared into the glowing water, seeing his reflection shimmer and fade. She told me to keep it burning, he whispered. Then I will. He returned to his wrecked ship, set up a new signal beacon and placed it higher, so she could see it even from far away. The light blinked across the valley like a heartbeat in the dark. Once for peace, twice for understanding, once again for hope. And far away, hidden among the glowing cliffs, Avelis stood watching. The wind lifted her silver hair and her eyes softened. Her people had forgotten what it felt like to feel anything, but that small human light, that fragile signal pulsing in the mist, stirred something in her that she thought was long dead. She closed her eyes. Maybe this human heart could still teach us what ours have forgotten. The valley filled with quiet light as both signals blinked together, two souls speaking through rhythm and silence, across species and fear, and though neither said it aloud, both already knew. Something deep had begun. 3 nights had passed since the signals began. The misty valley no longer felt like a trap, it had felt alive. Every time Eli's beacon blinked, he could feel her presence somewhere beyond the trees, watching, listening, answering in light. But that night, the signal changed. His beacon started blinking in a slow, rhythmic pattern he had never seen before. 3 pulses, a pause, then one long flash. He frowned, trying to understand. What are you trying to say, Avelis? He whispered. Suddenly he heard it. A melody, soft and haunting, rising through the mist like the sound of stars breathing. It wasn't just a song. It was a call. Without thinking, Eli picked up his scanner and followed the sound through the glowing trees. The forest shimmered around him, the air thick with the scent of silver flowers that opened as he passed. His boots left faint footprints that glowed behind him. The music grew clearer, higher, deeper, filled with something that made his chest ache. He climbed a small ridge, and when he reached the top, the sight before him took his breath away. Below lay a wide valley bathed in soft blue light. 2 moons floated above, one large and golden, one small and silver, their reflections glowing in a still lake. And there, standing at the center of it all, was Avelis. She stood barefoot on the glowing water, her long silver hair drifting in the night air, her skin shining like moonlit glass. For a moment, Eli forgot how to breathe. She turned slowly, as if she already knew he was there. Her glowing eyes met his across the water. No words were spoken, yet he felt her voice in his mind, soft, curious, almost shy. You followed the song. Eli stepped closer, his boots crunching against the crystal sand. It was hard not to, he said quietly. It felt like it was pulling me. Her lips curved slightly, a faint smile appearing. I wanted to see if you would come. He took another step, the mist brushing against his legs. And now that I'm here? For a moment she didn't reply. Then in a voice that felt like wind and warmth at once, she said, Now you see me, truly. The glow around her softened, and the air between them rippled gently. Eli realized his heart was beating too fast. She wasn't a ghost or an illusion. She was real. Avelis reached out a hand toward him, not touching, just letting her fingers hover above the air. The water beneath her rippled with light. Eli took one more step forward, close enough to see her face clearly. Her features were delicate and otherworldly, but her eyes, though glowing, carried something deeply human inside. Loneliness. Eli lowered his voice. You've been alone for a long time, haven't you? Her eyes shimmered and the light in them dimmed. My duty keeps me apart.
I am the guardian of the mist.
I listen to the memories of my people. I protect what remains, he frowned. Protect from what? Avelis turned away, her gaze moving toward the horizon where dark towers of mist rose like ghosts. From ourselves, she said softly. Long ago we touched the stars. We met humans. We loved them. But war took everything. My people closed our hearts and buried our emotions. To survive. Eli's throat tightened. And you? Did you bury yours too? She looked back at him, her silver eyes glowing brighter now. I tried, their eyes locked. The world fell away. The mist, the stars, even the sound of wind. Everything went silent. All that remained was the space between them, heavy with something new, something powerful. Eli took a slow breath. When I first saw you, he said softly, I thought I was dreaming, but now I think maybe I was finally awake. Her expression changed. Confusion, wonder, and something deeper flickered across her face. You are strange, Eli Carter. No one has spoken to me this way. He smiled faintly. Then maybe no one ever looked at you the way I do. Avelis's glow brightened for a heartbeat. Her version of blushing, perhaps. The air shimmered with warmth. But then, just as quickly, her light dimmed again. She turned away, her voice heavy. You should not feel this. It will only bring pain. Eli took a step closer. Maybe, but I've already felt it. She looked at him again, eyes soft but filled with fear. Why do you risk it? He shrugged gently. Because sometimes even if it hurts, love is worth it. The words seemed to echo forever in the valley. Avelis didn't answer at first. Then slowly, she stepped forward until she was standing only inches from him. The mist curled around their feet like glowing smoke. When she spoke again, it was not in his mind but aloud, her voice real and trembling. You speak of love. Yet you do not even know what I am. Eli smiled softly. I don't have to. I know what I feel. For the first time she looked away. Her chest glowed faintly, a soft pulse like a heartbeat. She whispered, Your heart is too loud, human. It calls to mine, and I am afraid of what it awakens. Eli reached out, his fingers brushing the air near her arm. He didn't touch her. He just wanted her to know he wasn't afraid. Then let it, he said gently. Let it awaken whatever's been sleeping too long. The moons reflected in her eyes. She stood there for a long moment, motionless, her silver hair flowing in the glowing wind. Then she whispered, Tomorrow the mist will rise higher. If you follow its song again, you may find me once more. Before he could answer, her form began to fade into light. The glow scattered across the valley, drifting upward like fireflies. Eli stood there long after she disappeared, the sound of her voice still echoing in his mind. He looked up at the twin moons, their light shining softly over the water. And for the first time in his life, he felt completely alive, even on a dying world. He placed his hand over his chest and whispered to the night, I'll find you again, Avelis. I promise. The next morning the mist was thicker than ever. It wrapped the forest like a living thing, glowing faintly in soft blue light. Eli woke up shivering beside the dying campfire. His oxygen mask hissed weakly. Oxygen 9%, he ignored it. He wasn't thinking about survival anymore. He was thinking about Avelis. He had barely slept. Her words from the night before played again and again in his mind. Your heart is too loud, human. It calls to mine. He smiled faintly, touching his chest. Then listen to it, he whispered. Outside, the forest sang softly, the same strange melody she had used to call him before. He stood up, grabbed his pack, and began walking toward it. Each step he took, the mist pulsed with light as if the world itself was breathing with him. The air grew warmer. The song grew clearer. And then, through the swirling fog, he saw her again. Avelis stood beside a large crystal tree, her glowing hair drifting in the air like silver fire. When she turned, her eyes met his instantly, bright and alive but heavy with something unspoken. You came, she said, this time with her real voice. It was soft, like wind over water. I told you I would, Eli replied. I made a promise. Her lips curved slightly. Humans and promises, she said. You still believe in them? Eli stepped closer. Only the ones that matter. Avelis didn't answer. She turned her gaze away toward the dark horizon. Strange lights flickered far in the distance, like lightning but too controlled, too even. Eli frowned. What's that? She hesitated. Patrol drones, she whispered. My people are searching for me. For you? She nodded slowly. I left the sanctuary without permission. It is forbidden to speak with outsiders. Eli felt a cold chill down his spine. Why? Avelis' voice grew quieter. Because long ago humans betrayed us. They came as friends, then brought war. The scars of that pain still live in our hearts. My people believe human love is a lie. A poison that once destroyed worlds. Eli clenched his jaw. But that wasn't me. That wasn't us now. I know, she said softly. But they will not care. If they find you here, they will kill you. And me. The words hit him like a punch. He took a slow step forward. Then why are you here, Avelis? Why do you keep calling me? She looked at him for a long time, her eyes glowing brighter. Because I tried to forget you, she whispered. But I could still feel your heart calling mine through the mist. Eli's chest tightened. Then don't forget. Don't fight it. She shook her head, her voice trembling. You don't understand what this means. If my people learn I've bonded with a human, I'll lose everything, my duty, my home, my spirit link. Then lose them, he said. You've already lost yourself trying to obey rules that stopped meaning anything centuries ago. For a long moment, neither spoke. The mist swirled around them, filled with faint lights that pulsed like tiny stars. Finally, she whispered, You risk too much for someone you barely know. Eli smiled softly. Maybe that's what love really is. Doing the impossible for someone you can't explain. Avelis looked down. Her glowing fingers brushed against the crystal bark of the tree. Love, she said quietly. That word was erased from our language long ago. We call it heartlink now, a dangerous illusion that once led to ruin. He stepped closer, close enough that the light of her body reflected in his visor. Then maybe it's time you remembered it. Their eyes met again. Something unspoken passed between them, fragile and powerful. And then, for the first time, she reached out her hand and touched his face. Her skin was warm and softer than he imagined. A soft glow spread from her palm to his cheek, then down his neck into his chest. He gasped. His heart raced, and for a moment he could feel hers beating in rhythm with his own. The connection was real. It was alive, Avelis whispered. Our energy is merging. This should not be possible. He smiled faintly, eyes half closed. Then maybe we're both breaking the rules. But just as quickly, she pulled her hand away, trembling. No, I must not. You don't understand the cost. What cost? He asked. If I bond with you completely, I will no longer be only me. Our spirits will share one path. If you die. I die too, Eli froze. He looked at her, speechless. Then he said quietly, Then I'll make sure I live. She stared at him, her glowing eyes soft and uncertain. You cannot promise life. Maybe not, he said, but I can promise to fight for it. For you. The air between them shimmered again, brighter this time, full of color and warmth. The forest seemed to hold its breath, and for one silent, infinite moment Avelis let her forehead rest against his. Their eyes closed. Their hearts beat together, human and alien. Light and warmth, breaking every law her world had made. Then, somewhere deep in the forest, a sharp metallic sound echoed. Whir, click, whir, Avelis' eyes snapped open. They found us, she gasped. Distant lights appeared between the trees, cold, mechanical, scanning through the mist. Eli grabbed her hand. Run! They ran together through the glowing forest. The mist lit up behind them as the drones gave chase, firing beams of blue light that burned holes in the ground. Eli ducked behind a fallen log, pulling Avelis with him. The air was filled with energy pulses. The forest trembled. Avelis turned to him, panic in her voice. You must go back to your ship, hide. I'm not leaving you, he said firmly. She looked into his eyes, human eyes that burned with defiance. Something inside her broke. Then, she whispered, we run together. And hand in hand, human and alien sprinted into the heart of the glowing valley, hearts bound by something both forbidden and unstoppable. A connection neither her laws nor his fear could undo. The next few days passed in silence and tension. Eli and Avelis hid deep inside the glowing forest, away from the patrols that searched the skies. Their bond had grown stronger, too strong to hide for long. Each night the mist pulsed faintly with the rhythm of their hearts, glowing when they were close. Even the forest seemed to sense their connection. Eli worked hard to repair a small transmitter from his broken ship. If I can fix this, he said, tightening a wire, maybe I can call for help and get off this planet. Avelis watched him from the shadows, her eyes glowing softly. And leave? She asked quietly. He froze. The question pierced him. He started, then sighed. I don't want to leave you. She smiled faintly. Then you must understand something, human. If you stay, the mist will consume you. It feeds on life that does not belong here. Eli looked up at her. Then maybe I belong here now. Her expression softened, but before she could reply, a loud hum filled the air. The ground trembled. Blue lights flashed through the fog. Avelis's eyes widened. They've found us. From above, massive drones descended through the mist, scanning with bright beams. Eli grabbed her hand. We have to move. But before they could run, a high-pitched tone echoed, a sound like cracking glass. The air around them froze. Energy fields wrapped around their bodies, lifting them from the ground. Eli struggled. Avelis. She tried to reach for him, but the field held her tight. Don't fight it, she shouted. They'll hurt you. The drones pulled them upward into a hovering ship. The doors closed behind them, cutting off the light of the forest. Inside, the air was cold and metallic. Alien guards stood in a circle, tall and pale, their armor glowing with silver lines. Their eyes shone like hers, but colder, emptier. A voice echoed through the chamber. You have broken the ancient law, Guardian Avelis. Eli turned. At the far end of the hall stood the High Elder, taller than the others, his body covered in glowing runes. His face was unreadable, but his voice carried centuries of command. Avelis bowed her head. I accept responsibility, Elder. And the human? The Elder asked, his gaze shifting to Eli. A creature from the species that once brought war. Why is he here? Eli took a deep breath. Because of me. I crashed. She helped me. The Elder's tone sharpened. And why would she help the enemy? Eli's voice trembled, but his eyes were steady. Because she has a heart. The room went silent. The guards exchanged uneasy glances. The Elder stepped closer, his silver eyes glowing brighter. Heart? You speak of emotion, that weakness that destroyed our peace. Eli met his gaze. You call it weakness. I call it what makes us alive. The Elder's energy flared, shaking the room. Silence, human. Avelis spoke quickly, her voice urgent. Please, Elder, it was my choice. Do not harm him. You forget your place, Guardian, the Elder said coldly. Your emotions have infected you. Eli's fists clenched. If caring is infection, maybe your people need it again. The Elder's hand rose and Eli was thrown to the ground by an invisible force. Pain shot through his chest. Avelis screamed, breaking free for a moment, her light blazing. Stop. The energy around her exploded, filling the room with white light. The guard stumbled back. The Elder narrowed his eyes. You risk everything for this human? Avelis knelt beside Eli, her voice shaking. I feel what he feels. Our hearts are bound. If you kill him, I will die too. The Elder stared in disbelief. Impossible. It's true, she said. The mist itself accepted him. He is linked to me. The Elder's face hardened. Then the link must be broken. Two guards stepped forward, grabbing Eli. He struggled, shouting, Avelis! Don't let them! But Avelis didn't move. Her face was pale with pain. I can't stop them, she whispered. The Elder turned to her. You will watch and you will learn why our laws exist. He raised his hand, and the floor beneath Eli began to glow. A deep hum filled the air. Eli's breath grew shallow. The energy felt like fire crawling through his veins. He gasped, falling to his knees. Avelis screamed, light bursting from her chest. Stop, you're killing him. The Elder looked confused. His pain affects you? She cried out, clutching her chest. Because his heart is mine. The glow between them pulsed, growing brighter and brighter, until a shockwave tore through the chamber, throwing everyone back. When the light faded, Eli lay still on the floor. Avelis crawled to him, shaking. Eli, please, open your eyes. His voice was weak. You're okay? She nodded, tears glowing like crystals in her eyes. You fool. You were supposed to run. He smiled faintly. And miss the chance to prove love exists? Not a chance. Around them, the Elder and his guards watched in silence. The glow between the human and alien woman was unlike anything they had seen. Bright, pure, and alive. One of the younger guards whispered, Elder, the link is stable. Their energy flows as one. The elder's expression shifted, not anger now, but something closer to fear. Or awe. Take them, he ordered. To the council hall. Let the world witness this. Before we decide their fate. As the guards lifted them both, Eli reached out and squeezed Avelis's hand weakly. No matter what happens, he whispered, I meant every word. She looked at him, voice trembling. And I feel every heartbeat. As the doors closed and the ship rose through the mist, the valley below glowed faintly, their combined energy still lighting the forest where they once met. The world had seen a human fall in love with an alien before. But this time, the universe itself had felt it. The council chamber of the alien world was a cathedral of light. Tall crystal towers surrounded the room, glowing with a cold silver radiance. Dozens of alien elders stood in a circle, their eyes gleaming like stars. At the center, bound in shimmering energy chains, stood Avelis and Eli Carter. The atmosphere was tense. Every movement, every breath echoed through the chamber. Eli could barely stand. His body ached from the energy strike, but he refused to kneel. Beside him, Avelis trembled, her glow faint and dim. A deep voice echoed from above. The Guardian has broken the ancient law, declared Elder Vareth, the same who had captured them. She formed a heart link with a human. Such corruption cannot exist among us. Murmurs rippled through the council. Disapproval, curiosity, even fear. Eli raised his head. You call it corruption. I call it truth. A sharp hiss filled the air as energy sparks flickered around his bonds. Silence, Vareth commanded. You will speak only when asked. But Eli didn't stop. His voice grew stronger. You fear what you don't understand. You locked away your emotions because they made you feel, but isn't feeling what makes you alive? Gasps filled the chamber. Avelis turned to him, eyes wide. Eli, please. Don't, but he shook his head. No, Avelis. They have to hear it. He looked at the circle of glowing figures. You think your world is dying because of humans. But your world is dying because you buried your hearts. The elder's face hardened. And what would a mortal from a dying race know about survival? Eli smiled faintly. I know what it means to love someone so much that you'd rather die than see them suffer. That's something your perfect laws can't teach you. The chamber fell into silence again. Even the glowing crystals seemed to dim. Then slowly the elder descended from his throne of light, walking toward them. His steps echoed with power. He stopped in front of Eli, looking down at him. You would die for this creature? Vareth asked, his tone low. Eli's eyes didn't waver. In a heartbeat, Avelis gasped softly. Her hand trembled against the energy field. The elder studied him for a long moment. You are either brave or a fool. Maybe both, Eli said with a weak grin. The elder raised a glowing hand and the chains around Eli dissolved. Then prove your truth, human. Eli blinked in confusion. Prove it? You speak of love, Vareth said. Show us its strength. The heart link is a bond of spirit and pain. If your feelings are true, your soul will endure the trial of hearts. Avelis's voice broke in panic. No, the trial will destroy him. The elder ignored her. Let the human stand in the circle. The floor around Eli began to glow. Lines of ancient symbols lit up beneath his feet, forming a perfect ring. The energy rose around him like white fire. Avelis screamed, Stop! He doesn't understand what you're doing. Vareth's voice was cold. Then let his heart teach us all. The light exploded. Eli cried out as energy surged through his body. Every heartbeat felt like lightning. Visions flashed before his eyes. Earth, oceans, faces of strangers. And then, her. Avelis glowing in the mist, smiling, reaching for him. Pain turned to warmth. Fear turned to clarity. His heart raced, but he didn't pull away. He reached out even through the fire. Avelis! He shouted. I won't let go. Through her tears, she reached out too, pressing her hand against the barrier. The glow between them deepened, and their bond blazing like a second sun. The elder stepped back, shielding his eyes. Impossible. Avelis's voice filled the chamber, not through words, but through emotion. You see, Elder? This is not poison. This is life. Eli's voice followed, trembling but strong. Love doesn't break worlds. It saves them. The energy field cracked, not from weakness, but from power overflowing. A blinding flash filled the entire room. When it faded, Eli was still standing. The ring of symbols burned into the floor beneath him. And Avelis. She was glowing brighter than ever. Her light pure and soft. She ran to him and caught him as he stumbled. "You're alive," she whispered, tears running down her face. He smiled faintly. "I told you. My heart's too stubborn to quit." The elders stood speechless. One of the younger ones finally spoke. The trial accepted him. "The bond is pure." Vareth looked down at them, the human, weak but unbroken, and the guardian, radiant and alive. Slowly he said, "Perhaps we have been wrong to hide from feeling." The council chamber was silent, except for the sound of the two hearts beating in sync, human and alien. Echoing through the hall of crystal, Avelis looked up at the elder. "Then let us prove it. Let this be the start of something new." The elder hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Very well. Let the records show the bond has been witnessed. The mist will remember." Avelis's light flickered softly. She turned to Eli, her smile trembling but real. "You changed everything." He shook his head. "We did." As they walked out of the chamber together, the other aliens bowed their heads slightly, not out of duty but respect. For the first time in centuries, the great hall of the elders was not cold. It was warm with the pulse of two hearts that had refused to break. The first light of dawn spread across the misty valley. Soft golden rays touched the glowing trees, the silver lakes, and the distant mountains that had once echoed with fear. The world of Avelis was changing. The mist, once cold and heavy, now shimmered warm and alive, as if it too was breathing again. Eli Carter stood at the edge of the valley, watching the sunrise. His body was weak, but his heart beat strong. The trial had nearly killed him, but love had saved him. Behind him, Avelis walked quietly through the glowing grass. Her steps were soft, her silver hair catching the morning light. "You should be resting," she said gently. He turned and smiled. "Couldn't miss the sunrise. It's the first one I've seen that doesn't feel lonely." She stopped beside him, her glowing eyes reflecting the twin suns that rose together above the horizon, one golden, one pale white. For centuries her people had feared emotion, hiding their hearts behind walls of logic and silence. But now, for the first time in ages, the light of two suns fell on a world that felt again. Below, the city of her people stirred. The great crystal towers glowed softly instead of coldly. The once silent air now hummed with quiet voices. Not commands, not orders, but laughter. Avelis spoke softly, almost to herself. "They are learning to feel again. The mist carries warmth now. It hasn't done that since the war." Eli looked at her. "Then maybe the war didn't end when the fighting stopped. Maybe it ends now, when your heart's open again." She smiled faintly, her glow soft and calm. "You speak like a leader," he chuckled. "Just a man who fell out of the sky." Her smile deepened. "A man who changed a world?" They stood in silence for a moment. The wind carried the faint song of the mist, that same melody that had first connected them. It was gentler now, like a heartbeat. Avelis stepped closer, her fingers brushing his hand. "When you first came here," she said, "I thought you were a danger. A crack in the silence I was sworn to protect. But now I see, you were a reminder. That silence is not peace." Eli looked down at her, his expression soft. "And you reminded me that love isn't just for humans. It's something bigger, something the stars themselves understand." She tilted her head, curious. "The stars?" He nodded. "They burn alone for billions of years, but when two draw close, they create light brighter than either one could make alone." Avelis smiled, her silver eyes glowing warmly. "Then we are two stars," he grinned. "That's one way to say it." They laughed quietly together, a sound so simple, yet so full of life that even the mist seemed to shimmer brighter. Far in the distance, the High Elder watched from the crystal citadel. He no longer wore the cold expression of command. His eyes were calm, thoughtful. The ancient laws were already being rewritten. No longer would they call emotion weakness. The story of Avelis and the human would be taught to every child, as a reminder of what it means to be alive. Avelis turned toward the sound of distant bells ringing through the valley. "The council calls for me," she said softly. "They wish me to lead the renewal, to help our people remember how to feel." Eli nodded. "Then go. You've earned it." She looked at him, a shadow of sadness in her glowing eyes. "And you? What will you do?" He looked up at the twin suns. "Maybe I'll fix my ship. Maybe I'll stay. Maybe I'll help you teach them what it means to smile." Her lips curved in a soft, loving smile. "You would stay in a world not your own?" He stepped closer, brushing a strand of her silver hair behind her ear. "Anywhere you are," he said quietly, "feels like home." Her breath caught, and then she leaned forward, resting her forehead against his. For a long time, neither spoke. The mist swirled around them, warm and gentle, carrying the pulse of their hearts through the valley. When she finally pulled away, her eyes glistened with tears of light. "You came from the stars," she whispered, "and reminded me that even light needs warmth to live." Eli smiled softly. "And you reminded me that even love can exist between worlds." They stood side by side, watching as the twin suns rose higher, spreading gold and white light over a world reborn. Around them, flowers opened like small stars. The air shimmered with energy, full of color and hope. Avelis looked up at the sky. "Do you hear it?" she asked. Eli listened. The wind carried faint whispers, not of sorrow or pain, but of song. The voices of her people singing again after centuries of silence. He nodded slowly. "Yeah," he said softly. "It sounds like a heartbeat." Avelis reached out and took his hand. Together they stood beneath the rising light. The last human and the alien guardian. Two souls from different worlds who had proved that love needed no translation. As the suns rose higher and the mist turned to golden haze, Avelis whispered the words that would echo across generations. "Love is not a weakness. It is the strongest truth the universe ever made." Eli smiled, squeezing her hand gently. "And sometimes," he said, "all it takes is two hearts brave enough to believe in it." The camera of light faded slowly as they stood in silence, the valley glowing brighter with every breath, the mist whispering with warmth, and the world finally learning to feel again. End message. Love is not bound by blood, form, or world. It's the courage to see another soul and still choose to care. Even across galaxies, hearts speak the same language.